another Sunday. I was thinking about today's video, I mean the content, the topic of today's video for quite some time. Let me go back a little bit. As you know, my name is David Cohen. I'm Jewish and I'm a photographer. Even though photography hasn't been my source of income for all my life, it has been the thin red line throughout my life, the one thing that never changed. Therefore, I'm not only Jewish and a photographer, I'm also a Jewish photographer. Because whatever happens and happened to Jews throughout history is reflected in my family's history. In many places in Poland, members of my family were murdered for the mere sake of being Jewish. I have read about all of this. I have read historic, scientific books by leading scholars, academics. I have seen it in my family. And of course, it affects me. There's a saying that every book you read, every, I think, song you heard influences you. Being Jewish is not only a legacy, it's a heavy burden. But I don't complain. I am proud to be Jewish because it means that you cope with hardship in life for many, many generations. Now, why am I mentioning this? As you may know, for a long time, the works of the German composer Richard Wagner were banned from being played and staged in Israel. I don't know today, but most likely this ban is still in force. But it was a reaction to Richard Wagner's anti-Semitism preceding Adolf Hitler. We know all about, because the Nazis were in that way very typical Germans, very methodical, very much focused on detail. They had lists of everything. We know exactly the train numbers. I know the train numbers, the number of trains. I sometimes even know the name of the train conductor that led people to their deaths in places like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and other horrific names on the Polish and other lands maps. We have heard about Oskar Schindler, who saved a lot of people by employing them in his factories and offering them as much safety, security, livelihood, etc. as possible. And today I want to talk about somebody who most of you only know as a name in photography. And he was Ernst Leitz II, the son of the founder of Leitz Camera. Ernst Leitz II lived between 1871 to 1956, as far as I remember. And he was leading the company during one of the darkest, if not the darkest, chapter of German history, the Nazi era. A lot of Leica cameras, lights, highly skilled workers were Jewish. So when the Nazis were democratically elected in 1933, with the known anti-Semitic propaganda and program, a lot of people affected and non-affected reached out to Ernst Leitz to seek help. And here we already see one of the traits that of the family and the company until today. Ernst Leitz the first, so the founding father, and his son were already known to offer working conditions unheard of at that time: sick leaves, holidays, other um, assistances, fringe benefits we so often take for granted today. But the Leitz family offered all of this to their workers without having been legally forced to do. So, who else but Ernst Leitz would have been likely, or at least according to their hopes, would listen? Now, what happened? Between 1933, the year Hitler was elected into office, and then did away with democratic institutions, and the beginning of the Second World War in 1939, Jewish life had increasingly come under pressure. Immigration became increasingly harder until impossible. So what did Ernst Leitz II do? He sent many of his employees on assignments to Leica stores, Leica factories abroad with their families, offering financial help to help them get away in a legal way. That was not without risk, because effectively these people were the subject of the anti-Semitic genocidal program, and Hitler made it very clear in his book during the 1933 campaign that once in power, he would kill as many Jews as possible. So he had to walk a very thin line. On the one hand, his cameras were very popular, especially afterwards in the war with the regime, because of their quality. We know about their quality until today. And of course, in order to protect him, his family, and the possibility to help people, he played along, just like Oskar Schindler played along. And he kept sending people abroad on assignments, sending them to places like France, Britain, America, even to Hong Kong, certifying and that they would work there, and offering money, financial help, so that they could start a new life. His whole life was, he never boasted about it. He never bragged. A lot of people didn't know until a few years ago a movie was produced, which unfortunately I never found, neither in a cinema nor on TV. I must have missed it. It was not spectacular enough, so it didn't receive any major attention. But nevertheless, what Ernst Leitz did, Ernst Leitz II, was on the same level as Oskar Schindler. He saved Jewish life, even though he was not Jewish. His sister was arrested, briefly arrested. One of his top executives, also non-Jewish, Alfred Türk, was arrested. And he had to fear for his life on a daily basis, every hour, every second, and he kept steadfast. He would help as much and as long as possible, and the outbreak of the Second World War ended it all, because then a total ban on emigration, on leaving the country, if not in the interest of the Reich and of the party, which means the Führer, Adolf Hitler, was impossible. I started photography as a child. I said it many times, with my father's Leica M3. Throughout all the years and decades, even though I was mainly for a very long time, because simply I could not afford it. And there was a very difficult period of Leica going on too, where this company nearly failed, and it really hurt me. But nevertheless, also during the analog days, I owned Leica R4 and 5. I wanted to buy the R9, a very beautiful design. I owned several Deluxe generations. I owned Leica Deluxe 7 and 8, and now I own Leica Q3 43. Why didn't I buy a Leica earlier? Very simple. The M system is not stabilized. And with my hands, based on my medical condition, my health situation, in particular the kind of photography, no artificial light, available light, I'm talking now about my professional photography, but in general, the way I see photography requires me, ever since I developed this issue of my hands, to use cameras with stabilizers, and that started with the Q series. And at the beginning of this year, even though it was expensive, but nevertheless, hand-built, premium materials, made in Germany, that is worth every single penny, cent, whatever currency you're into. I grew up in Greece during military dictatorship, and it was terrible. I started my first year in elementary school in a Greek school, as everybody else. And as it is with military dictatorships, most likely also the same we saw in Portugal and Spain, they are very close to the Christian churches. So this lunatic teacher we had was the perfect representative. He ordered us to stand up. I refused. He ordered us to pray. I refused. I don't pray to God, least of all to a Christian God. And one of the few things I really appreciate about my father, apart from introducing me to photography and Leica, was that the following year he took me out of Greek school and paid very high tuition fees for the German school in Athens, which saved me. And I was heavily influenced. The way I see Germany, I appreciate, I cherish, and I love Germany, was influenced by their very dry way of presenting facts. So I'm this mixture of Jewish, Oriental, Greek, Mediterranean, Polish, and German, with some American input because I lived and studied in the United States. As I said, I'm Jewish, I'm a photographer, and I'm a Jewish photographer, and I'm proud to work with a camera produced by people who had nothing to lose but everything to lose, nothing to win but everything to lose, by helping Jews while others did everything to make their lives hard and terrible. Yes, I love Leica, and I will stand up for Leica, and I will talk about Leica. Today may have been a little bit, darker, but I wanted to talk about this, and I'm glad I did. I wish you a nice Sunday evening. See you next week.